Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I am George. We're all George. So, welcome to another Market Open stream. Today, there are, of course, a lot of things to talk about, including the latest job report in the U.S. and Powell's potential pivot because of it. So, let's talk about it. And let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going on in the world today. All right, let's do this, guys. Welcome. We are starting out today right around 105,000. Not a whole lot of movement today. Although the U.S. market looks like it wants to go green, which is good. And that's because I believe we got this bad jobs report. Excuse me. So the latest ADP report shows that in May, the private sector hiring was only 37,000. 37,000. The forecast was 110,000. So that's less than half the forecast. Right? And in April, it was 60,000. April wasn't good already, but May was just absolutely horrendous. It's getting close to zero now. And of course, this is showing that employers are just worried. Employers are worried about the economy, worried about inflation, worried about, everything that's going on. And they're not hiring because of it, right? So why is this good news? Well, normally speaking, when you have economic, uncertainty, economic hardships, that's usually when the Fed steps in. That's usually when Fed Chair Powell comes in and tries to save the day by cutting the Fed fund rate. And that is exactly what Trump is calling for. ADP number out. Too late, Powell. It's not the worst nickname to give someone. Too late, Powell must now lower the rate. He's unbelievable. Europe has lowered 9 times. And Europe may be lowering again. I think the ECB is going to have a rate decision tomorrow and talk about this. So this is probably the reason why markets are up, because people are thinking, well, this gives... Obviously, we know what Trump wants, but the low jobs number does give Powell ammunition to cut the Fed fund rate this month. We actually do have an FOMC meeting this month. However, and that's in 14 days. However, if you're looking at a CME prediction, right now, the chance of a cut is 1%. This may update later on, but right now, it does seem like there is close to 0% chance there will be a cut this month, June 18th. What about July? If you look at July, there is a 27% chance. It's the end of July after this. And then if you go into September, we have a 56% chance of a cut in September. So right now, it's looking like it's not going to happen, but Powell's under a lot of pressure. He's under an enormous amount of pressure to cut. And he may want to, but there's no signs allowing him to. But this jobs report may be the first thing that he can use to say to the public, well, this is showing that the economy is slowing down, is shrinking, and I may have to, be ahead of this thing. Maybe. We'll see. There's probably going to be more numbers next week and a week after that. And hopefully they are bad numbers, I should say. That'll help him, cut this rate. Outside of this, we still have a lot of other things going on. For example, this trade deal with China, which Trump says is extremely hard to deal with, although China already said they will meet U.S. halfway. The two sides just needs to get together and have a talk, a real sit down. Trump said he's going to call President Xi pretty soon on the phone. And maybe that will get both sides to actually finally come to agreement. This will be big. Once this is made, markets around the world will go up because, both of these guys, the US is the biggest buyer and China is the biggest seller. Both countries affect every nation on the planet. So, looking forward to this. And then also, this was released yesterday. Trump is going to increase steel and aluminum tariff by another 25%. Although UK is spared because UK already made a deal with the US. I don't know what that means though. I guess it's still going to be 25% for UK steel and aluminum. But everyone else will be 50%. So US steel and aluminum companies, their stocks skyrocket after this. Anyways, okay. So outside of macro stuff, getting back to Bitcoin, ETF inflow, kind of interesting. We had 3 massive outflow days. Okay, on the 29th, 30th, and the 2nd. Yesterday, we had a massive inflow day. So it did seem like at the end of the month and the beginning of the month, right, some of the funds and some of the big boys decided to sell off a little bit. I don't know, to rebalance the portfolio, or I actually don't know why they did. I mean, Bitcoin really wasn't affected. There wasn't really anything big that would affect things. But it looks like we are going back on track. We had a massive inflow yesterday that covered one of the 3 days right there already. So things may be, again, heating up. ETFs, you can't discount them. Okay, sometimes, yes, we have outflow days, Bitcoin doesn't move. We have inflow days, Bitcoin doesn't move. But an enormous amount is being pulled away from the OTC market every time, of course, we have a massive inflow day, like 375 million right here. Like, these funds actually have to go buy physical Bitcoin in the OTC market to satisfy this. So these spot ETFs over time make a big, big deal. Another thing that's interesting, a lot of people point out, is Ethereum. Ethereum ETF is starting to load up and being led by BlackRock too. BlackRock is looking to launch some kind of ETH spot ETF that includes staking within, so that you get kind of like a bonus, like almost a dividend with it. That is like right around the corner. So that may be why they've been loading up a little bit more than usual. And maybe the reason why ETH, if you paid attention, has been a little bit stronger than other alts recently too. I think it has a lot to do with this. All right. Now, based on all the macro stuff I've been saying, you have a macro strategist, Raoul Pal, that believes that Bitcoin is a life raft. U.S. debt is now past our GDP. Okay, that's not a good thing. That means basically no matter what, as a nation, we spend more than what we take in. Okay, and it's not going to stop. This big, beautiful bill that I talked about last night that Elon called an abomination, that will only increase our debt. It keeps increasing our ceiling. It's like if you had a credit card and every single month or every few months, you would call that credit card company and say, hey, I need the credit limit to be raised from $20,000, next month $25,000, next month $30,000, next month $40,000. And that's exactly what a debt ceiling is. Like, it's a self-imposed debt ceiling that we put on ourselves as a country. And yet Congress keeps lifting that ceiling as if there's no repercussions. It's just allowing ourselves to spend more, even though we don't take in more income. So you're just spending more, Obviously, if you put more on your credit card, the monthly payment goes up every month. The interest is still there, but the monthly goes up. And when you can't pay it with your income, then what do? The worst thing to do is ask for a credit limit increase so that you can spend more. But that's exactly what the US is doing. And that's what every country is doing. So that's the funny thing. So if you like break down how economies work, how countries work, you break it down simply in a way that relate to normal people, you will realize how poorly managed every country is, and it makes you wonder why every fiat on the planet hasn't crashed to zero and gone, and every country hasn't gone bankrupt yet. It's really outstanding if you just like think about what's happening. And in this scenario, if you can't pay your debts, you can't even pay the monthly minimum amount, what do? Well, you borrow more money. And what do you think bonds are? Bonds and treasuries is exactly that. The nation borrowing money because it doesn't have enough money. All these complex financial instruments, they're really not complex if you actually break it down. All these bonds, 2-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, all this stuff. They're just mechanisms for the US government to borrow money, and they have to pay it back in 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. I mean, that's just what it is. But what if no one wants to buy it? What if no one wants to lend the US any more money? Then we have a hell of a problem. And that is what people are really fearful of right now. That's why we have Bitcoin. I mean, it's just really like, I know I'm off on a tangent here, but over the last few years, the more I've learned about money and how countries work and financial system works, it makes my faith in Bitcoin go up. It really does, because you know what's happening can't be sustainable forever. And Bitcoin is the only thing that's outside of all these financial systems. It was created by Satoshi to be different, and it is different. And if the US reserve currency, which is the dollar, someday fails, and it will, every single fiat, every single reserve currency ever in history of the planet has failed after about 200 something years. And guess how long the US dollar has been out? 200 something years. So it's actually around that time. So what's going to replace the US dollar as the global reserve currency? Can it be Bitcoin? It actually makes a lot of sense, because Bitcoin is the only digital currency and only currency around the world that everyone universally accepts. No one is trying to ban. Because it's non-sovereign, there's no conflict, because it's a non-sovereign currency. So no one would be jealous that, oh, it belongs to the US or it belongs to China or it belongs to Russia. No, it's universal. It actually, if you think about it, it's the most perfect currency to be the world reserve currency because of the non-sovereignty. It's actually really, really good. But anyways, Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, he says this, but he's like, you know what? A strong America is super important for the world. We need to get our finances under control. And it's not. Back in the day, these numbers have always been increasing, right? But back in the day, there were, sometimes where, the U.S. deficit didn't go up that much. Maybe a little bit at a time. 0.1, 0.2 trillion, 200 billion here or there. But then, you know what, man, after, I don't know when it started really escalating, but man, these days, it's not stopping. There's a huge jump between 2023 and 2024. And then 2025, a smaller jump, but 2026, 2027, this big, beautiful bill is going to increase the deficit by $5 trillion. So we will be above 40 trillion, 41 trillion, 42 trillion within the next 4 years. This is not sustainable. The higher this number goes, the higher the interest is, which is already over $1 trillion a year. And again, because our debt is above our GDP, where's the money coming from? And if all else fails and we can't borrow money, then you know what? We have to print more IOUs. And that's what fiat is. A fiat is IOU. It's basically the promise that you can redeem that paper for something. But when there's too many of them being printed, each one gets worthless, gets less and less, valuable over time. That's what inflation is. And that's not going to stop. That will continue on forever. Forever, ever, ever, ever. So that's why it's so important. We have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is what fixes it all. So you have even politicians like New York City Mayor Eric Adams that says Bitcoin will fix what Wall Street broke. It's not what Wall Street broke. It's what our governments broke. The whole concept of fiat is just a non-sustaining system. It lives on borrowed time. However, the good thing, the borrowed time is usually more than our lifespan. So that's good. But really, if you look at it, it's borrowed time. Every currency fails after about 200 plus years. All right. Now getting on to some other stuff. So that's why it's so important to hold so much. Tether, even though they're not a Bitcoin-related company, okay, they have revealed in their new audit that they have over 100,000 Bitcoin. And even on top of that, 50 tons of gold. Gold bars, not paper gold. Gold bars. I don't even know the size required to store 50 tons of gold. But Tether said, or their CEO said, they don't believe gold. Gold is competition for Bitcoin. They just feel like it's they're doing it to protect their assets, which is U.S. Treasury bonds and cash, right? It's a hedge against them. And of course, Bitcoin is too. And Tether is part of a new company. I forgot the name. That is going to be buying Bitcoin just like Strategy. So Tether has really changed themselves. Last, 5 years ago, Tether was still super iffy. Now, because they're making money hand over fist, you know what? They're putting their money to good use. So that's good. What else is good? Bitcoin's supply shrinks about 30% in 80 months, setting the stage for a breakout. When you have so much buying, it makes sense the supply is going to shrink. The ETFs alone have taken in tens of billions. Saylor has taken in tens of billions within the last 18 months. And you got Metaplan and everyone else taking in tens of billions. Of course, the supply is going to shrink. It's not unlimited. It's not like fiat where you could just print more. That's what makes it awesome and different and special. And whales have purchased 30,000 Bitcoin in the last 96 hours. 30,000 Bitcoin within just the last week. Okay, why do you think the whales are doing that? Because they're just taking advantage of the dip. It's really that simple. You HODL and then you DCA. That's the winning strategy, right? And that's what the whales are doing. No matter what the price is, they continue to do so because once you understand the concept of money and how corrupt and unsustainable the system is, you have no other choice. What other thing can you put your money into as a safe haven? These days, you're not going to do gold, you go do Bitcoin. All right, last few things. Here's a broadening wedge for Bitcoin. We're retesting the top, which is good. That's usually what happens before you have a breakout, right? And then that's that next level that we've been all waiting for. Could be 120, 130, 140. That's going to be the next target. And that's going to be the next stopping point before our top, right? And remember that giant cup and handle pattern that's been in place since 2021? We're still there, right? And we're waiting for that top of the handle or the breakout on top of the handle. And, you know, after we hit that 130 mark and we stay there for a little bit and then we keep on going, that's where the moon is the next stop. Who knows? $200, $300, $400,000. Who knows where it may be, right? So you just have to have patience. Pay attention to the macro conditioning and, of course, pay attention to me. And hold on DCA. It's really that simple. All right. Last few things. I don't know how many people really care about this. Okay. But, just want to pinpoint that this new Trump wallet that was released yesterday, the Trump family has nothing to do with it. Every single one is coming out. I don't know if they just changed their mind recently or they took on too much flack over the fact that, Trump coin has made the family hundreds of millions of dollars. But when the wallet was released, every single Trump member came out and said they had nothing to do with it. So is that true? Or they know and they're just trying to distance themselves away? I don't know. But just know that this new hyped up Trump wallet, the Trump family says, no, we're not associated with it at all. And speaking of memes, Pump.Fun, which was the biggest meme coin launcher, and they still may be. They're going to be launching a token soon with an FDV of $4 billion. $4 billion. It doesn't really matter. They're making so much money left and right. But this is going to make the founders billionaires right afterwards. And it's okay to do that because meme coins are now no longer securities. If you can make $1 billion launching a meme, why not? But I don't know what the thing is for Pump.Fun, what this new token will do. I'm assuming it's a governance token. It's not going to be a meme of the project. That doesn't make any sense. But we'll see. And this is funny. Ripple denies the fact that they try to buy out Circle for $5 billion. I don't know why they would deny this. It's been reported multiple times. It seems like it's good on synergy, and it shows how much money Ripple has. But Brad Garlinghouse says no, we didn't try to do that. I don't know why. Anyway, Circle is going to do an IPO and debut at a $6 billion evaluation, so it's right around there. And then lastly, this is very positive. South Korea elected a very pro-crypto president. And because of it, new crypto regulations are coming, favorable ones. And, of course, that's good. That's good for everyone, right? Oh, look at this one. I didn't even see this. $884 billion pension fund will be allowed to invest in Bitcoin and other assets. You're talking about close to $1 trillion pension fund in South Korea that can now buy Bitcoin. And they're going to come out with Bitcoin ETFs too. Yeah, that's it. All right, outside of that, I'm going to show my new merch store a little bit. And this is the first item on the merch store. So you guys know I redesigned my website, cryptosaurus.com. There is now on top, there's a merch item. And the very first one is a 3D printed HODL sign. But later on, I'm going to be adding more, right? A lot of people like merch, like maybe Bitcoin watches and other various things that I may be releasing. Limited edition, limited time. So in case you're interested, it's there. And I linked it in the description and live chat. All right. That's pretty much it. Let's see. U.S. market's still pretty green today. Robinhood is still on fire. Coinbase and MicroStrategy, both are a little red today. And Bitcoin's down a little bit. ETH is actually holding very well. ETH is actually in the green. Solana is in the green today. ADA is in the green, although we're still far off from just from a few days ago. But we'll get back there. All right, let's do some Q&A. It just so happens I have that sign with me. Here we go. It's actually pretty big. It's a nice, thick 3D printed sign. Very, very sturdy. You can't break this unless you really wanted to. It's like a foot long. So it's not that small. I can make this bigger. It takes a long time to print that. All right, let me see. Hamda asked about Plum. Was thinking about it, but founder just passed and the price went down. I don't even know what Plum is. And I think you answered your own question. If a founder passed, which is unfortunate, he's the one leading the project. So that should tell you something. I think you already have your own answer. Replace it with the XRP logo. I could print an XRP logo. I don't know how many people will buy it. I gotta change my screen here. Jeff asked, if all the institutions are buying OTC, why would the price ever go up much? Well, do you think, let me ask you, do you think there's an unlimited supply of Bitcoin in the OTC market? OTC market is just like this. Say your friends, all your friends have a good amount of Bitcoin, right? And every so often, maybe you're like, hey, you know what, rather than buy on Coinbase or Robinhood or wherever, let's go buy from my friends. And your friends may be, okay, yeah, sure, I got some, I'll sell it to you. And you give him some money and he sends you Bitcoin. And you may be doing that for years. But let's say your buys keep on increasing and they get bigger every single time. One day, you're going to go to your friends and say, I want to buy X amount. And they're going to say, sorry, no, I'm not going to sell to you anymore because I don't have enough. Or I don't want to. That's what the OTC market is. You just have a few certain people or institutions that have some to sell. But it's not unlimited amount. It's not like they could print more. It's just whatever they have. They may have been early miners or they have accumulated a lot when things were cheap, but it's going to run out. when Wall Street is buying hundreds of millions per day, the OTC market is not going to last forever. So just think about that. And if institutions only bought OTC and they never affected the price, we wouldn't be at above $100,000. People have always made that argument before. When Bitcoin was still in the 40s and 50s last year, and I mentioned about ETF buying, and people were like, well, so what? They're just buying OTC, it'll never affect the price. Well, we're double from last year. Just take a second and think about that. So it does. Iggy, if you want to get banned, continue that rhetoric. And by the way, there was a lot of travel talk yesterday, so I decided that I will be going to Hawaii since I've never been there, and so many people. Yes, Iggy, it's not tanking, so stop spreading FUD. Because so many people said how good Hawaii is. I'm gonna be visiting Hawaii in a couple of months, and we'll see how good it is. Since everyone's saying like, oh, that's where I'll go when I retire and stuff. I hope it's as good as people say it is. It is quite expensive though. Plane tickets are quite expensive. Nice resorts are quite expensive. Fifth nail. I thought Stripe takes crypto. I didn't know how to enable it. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm actually gonna go to Honolulu, so not Maui. RP says I hated Hawaii. Why? Southern Stacker, I saw your video. You're a rock star. Thank you. I have another video that I'll post from the earlier from a day earlier, and I was getting bombarded in front of the Ledger booth. Anyways, I still enjoy it. Obviously, it's a humbling experience. You know, I never realized my own, I guess, celebrityism until I experience it. Luckily, in normal life and everywhere else, I'm not bombarded like that. So if I'm going on a Costco run, I'm not hit with like 50 people saying hi. So that's good, and I hope it stays that way. I don't want to get to a point where if I'm just walking in my daily life, I get stopped like that, because that would be very, very bad. If that day comes, I may just have to stop streaming altogether. Casey said, do you think BlackRock selling Bitcoin for ETH has any significance? I covered that earlier. I do think that it could be because they're preparing for their new Bitcoin, their ETH spot ETF with staking. So I think they may have to load up on that. Or they just want to get more people to pay attention to ETH before they launch it, whatever. There's some kind of agenda. They're not just doing it for no reason. I think it's because of that. Rand was just talking about the fact he was looking for my show, still live. I'm still here. I didn't see Rand at the Bitcoin conference. He's like at every single conference. You know, one thing I gotta say about Rand is he's probably the hardest working guy in crypto. Like he goes to like every single conference on the planet, like every single one. But he didn't go to the Bitcoin one. Or maybe he was there, I didn't see him, but I didn't see any presence from the banter group. But yeah. How do you feel about Brad signaling the death of Bitcoin at conference with donation of a skull? I don't think that's what he was signaling. All right. No crypto project should wish for death of Bitcoin because that would be the death of crypto. That would be bad. Very, very bad. Yeah, you know what? Those Bitcoin watches seems to be a hit. Like ever since my video, everyone's been talking about it. I think I got them a lot of attention. Um, I'm gonna talk to the guy. I think we have a meeting today or tomorrow. Um, try to make a deal with him. I'll put on the merch store. I mean, those watches, I'll say, like I was very impressed with those watches. They felt good, had a good weight to it. They looked beautiful. I didn't see any other watches that were similar. I think a lot of people would look or really like them, but they are pricey. The base one was like $500, and a limited edition one was like 1,200. Um, but they're nice watches. I plan on getting one for sure. All right, things are turning red a little bit. Yeah, I think there's too many people worried about the OTC market. It's always gonna be there. It's never gonna go away. But realize that Bitcoin has a set supply. There's only so much floating around, and some of that is in the OTC market. Vast majority of Bitcoin is being held by wallets, long-term holders, now institutions, ETFs. That's not going to change. OTC market is still very, very small. But I do theorize, I've said this last year, and I'm going to continue to say it. At some point, the OTC market is going to dry up, and I don't know where these ETFs are going to buy from. Like, I still think it's going to happen. Like, one of these days, BlackRock needs to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And they turn to Coinbase and say, hey, I need to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And Coinbase is like, sorry, I don't have $1 billion to sell you. And then they turn to Gemini, they turn to Kraken, and everyone's like, sorry, all of our Bitcoin is bought by the retail investors. We don't have $1 billion to sell you. What's going to happen then? I still don't know if they are prepared for that, or they have some kind of contingency or some kind of contract that states that these exchanges will pull from their pool, I guess, because it's going to happen during our peak times, even recently, right? Look at this, May 22nd, 934 million inflow. That's close to $1 billion. When Bitcoin gets hot again, you will have 1 billion, 1.5 billion, $2 billion daily inflows. You can't tell me there's like, infinite amount of OTC. So what's going to happen when the OTC runs out? Like, I really want to know. I don't think anyone can answer that. Maybe, someone from Coinbase or Kraken or from BlackRock can answer that. Because I really don't know what happens. Where they go get the Bitcoin from when the OTC market dries out? Are they go buy on spot? Imagine if they placed $1 billion buy on spot market. What that's going to be like. Did James Wynn get liquidated again? Here's the thing about leverage, okay? If you want to play with leverage, great. There's a lot of degens out there. I still do, and most of the time I still regret it, but I still do anyways. If you're gonna be a degen, don't do it like what he's doing, all right? Doing like a 40x, especially doing it publicly like that. The market makers are going to drain him. And I think it's one of the big reasons why Bitcoin has been choppy recently. Just the fact that they want to publicly liquidate him. He had $1 billion position that he lost. And then a day afterwards, he lost another huge position that he closed early. And I don't know if he opened another one that he's being liquidated. So, if you're going to do leverage, don't do a 40x. You're asking for it. If you want to do like a 5x, 10x, okay, have some fun, make sure you set some tight stop losses. But, don't put like $10 million at a 40x long and make it public and think that nothing bad is going to happen. It will happen. The market makers will destroy you. They have billions to play with. They're not just playing with a few million. But when things are good, everyone looks like a genius, right? Like when things are good, everything's going up, everyone could throw a 5x, 10x and make a ton of money. But when it gets choppy, that's where it like becomes a problem. Why would a normal person want BTC when the market makers just control it? It looks bad for crypto. What isn't controlled? I mean, you got to think about that. If you're thinking about Bitcoin versus everything else in crypto, nothing right now is outperforming Bitcoin. So everything else is being controlled even more. And if you look at outside of crypto, you don't think Wall Street is being controlled? Wall Street is definitely being controlled. Even with the macro conditions, it's scaring off people left and right. Wall Street is definitely being controlled. They themselves are controlling how stocks are moving. Everything's being controlled, man. But what is the best choice? It's Bitcoin. When I think altcoin season starts? Probably October. October to December, about 2 months. That's when things get crazy for alts. I think that is very likely. That's usually when altcoin season happens. Like the last 2 months of a cycle. In 2021, it was up until November timeframe. It was cut short because the Fed decided to cut or increase rates in December or announced it, so it cut the season short. And in 2017, same thing. We are not going to test the 98 range, man. If anything, if we do go down more, I'd say we probably just touched this 101, but Bitcoin has been extremely strong. There's no reason to think that we're going to go lower We were just at these levels, 103, a few days ago. Ricky says altcoin season usually begins about 2 hours after I sell my bet. Chit Chat says we may stay in this price range until summer ends, then breakout. It could happen. I know there's going to be some sort of breakout in October. I just don't know from what level. I still think that we will push to the next level, stay there for a little bit, and then have another final breakout in October. So I still think we're at the cusp of that. We just need a little push. Just a little push upwards. And then we'll be at the next level. And then we'll stay there for months again. And then people get bored. And then we're ready to go up again. That's how I feel is what's going to happen. All right, guys. Stay strong, my friends. Okay? The winning strategy is holding and DCing. Right? We got a lot of great things. A lot of fed up people about the Fed, inflation, government, money. That's why we have Bitcoin. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.